Greetings, one. Greetings, all. I'm your host. This is Rule the Wasteland. Of course, the ruler of the Wasteland, Ayatollah of Rock and Roll. And I'll just go over a few quick, I want to say, housekeeping type things while I let a few people roll in so people can watch this later. So, George Orwell, familiar face there. I've had a Patreon for a long time. I've told you guys about it. I don't like trying to get money out of you guys, all my loyal subscribers, but this channel doesn't make any money. I used to make $1,000 a month with like 20,000 subscribers, and now it makes like 75 bucks a month. So just for the actual literal costs of things, it doesn't even like pay for having a Zoom account. I pay for hosting and stuff on the domain. So that's not why I do it, but I am going to lean a little bit more on the Patreon side of things to try and give me more flexibility in what I can do, and just an alternate place to post stuff, and just a place to give away a lot of stuff, because I end up with, from some like battle box type stuff, from personal things, from reviews, I end up with a lot of gear that I would like to get back to you guys. So I'm going to be doing a lot of giveaways on Patreon, where the number of giveaways at least once a month from here on out. So there will be a September one at the end of this month, and then going forward. And the number of entries you get will be based on the tiers. You can go check that out. The link will be in the description and live. I'll just go ahead and post it in the chat. But I don't want anyone to feel obligated to do that. I might occasionally put content there that I can't post here for whatever reason, but I mostly plan on doing it for giveaways and just anyone who wants to support. And for the people that have already been supporting me, I'm already giving away some stuff this month. No, it's not even a contest. I just get to choose. This was one that someone sent me to make a video on. It's a mini katana Invictus M390. I'm not really I love knives, but I'm not like a knife guy. Like, I can't tell you about all the different types of steels and all that stuff. But this is very smooth. It tricked me because I've been using a lot of automatics lately, and so I was pressing this and I was like, why isn't it opening? And I'm like, oh, it's just that's the lock. But that's a pretty cool knife, so someone gets to choose that. That's for the people that have already been my Patreon. I'm giving away that. Giving away the CRKT 7190. Giving away this Alaskan Ulu. Giving away this box is beat up. But this Gerber Ghost Strike. So the people who have already been my patrons for the few months are being rewarded. And then at the end of this month, I will be giving away this Fox Edge. I believe this is called, it's got a model number on there, the FE520 with BG10 steel. Brand new. Box is a few signs of wear, obviously, but pretty cool. I just have so many knives, like an almost irresponsible number of knives. It's more knives than I could ever need. So I will be giving some of them away, my loyal patrons. So this is the one for next month, the Fox Edge FE520. You want to jump on there. Year to date, my market is up 9.6%, 9.26%. Sorry. May need to put these on in case you guys know I'm getting old. Got to wear these for playing poker. Look like a nerd. Yeah, it is a cool, nice blade shape. And I might work in some other way to at least let you guys who are not on Patreon have some chance at the giveaway, and just give the Patreon people like way more entries. I might figure something like that out. But good evening. So anyone wants to jump on there, you will at least have a chance of being rewarded going forward. And right now, there's only like 4 or 5 people on there. So your odds at the end of this month so far are extremely good, just based on the tiers. But welcome. Let's get into all the crazy. I appreciate that you guys come to me for at least a portion of your weekly doom scrolling, and hopefully that my insights will prove useful. When will you be growing your hair out again? I've thought about that because I've had this haircut for a while, and regrettably now it's all older people that have this, like politicians and news anchors and stuff. It's just not hip anymore. So I'm like, what's next? Do I need to do the Theo Von mullet, some kind of mohawk, or just go full on? It's a flex when you're over 40 to just grow your hair out. So I might do that, but it's not the best one to have for the apocalypse, but easy to fix. Salutations. But yeah, there's a few interesting things going on in the world. It's interesting because while the headlines, like I mentioned in my last or one of the more recent live streams, the headlines have been like kind of backing off and not making a big deal out of things, but that might be like Flotilla. Yeah, I could do the kind of like what JJ's got, or which the Arnold movie that he really has an aggressive one. Is it Last Action Hero or Raw Deal or one of those? Maybe Commando. Probably all of them. Let me look up the Raw Deal. I'll do more of like a Guile. Now Raw Deal, he's just got a buzz cut. Let me look up the Guile from Street Fighter. Yeah, I'll do that one. What is Van Damme? What does his look like? Look at some of these pictures. He's just got a little bit spiky. But yeah, could do something like that. Might be fun. 28 watching, only 5 likes. I appreciate it. But you can give them a second, to make sure they see something that they actually like here. So far, I've mostly been talking about Patreon. But white walls? What do you mean? White walls as in white wall tires? As in these white walls? Not sure what you're referencing. 50s flat top would be good. Depending apocalypse head for the bunker vibe. Yeah, exactly. But there's been a few, like I said, the news has been, I don't even want to say quiet. Obviously, the news domestically is focused extremely tight on election stuff. Meanwhile, we're seeing, I don't even want to say escalations because it's just been a steady escalation, but the things that we're seeing are indicative of the fact that the next stage of this is of the World War III is going to happen, particularly because Russia is obviously winning against Ukraine. The Kurds offensive thing was never going to be meaningful in any way. It didn't make any sense, except for a provocation, because that's been Ukraine's kind of goal the whole time, is to provoke Russia in a way they obviously Russia is already fighting NATO. They're just fighting them in Ukraine. It's a proxy. And Ukraine's goal has always been to break out of the proxy format and make NATO fight Russia directly. And so they aren't taking the pounding, and they have been taking a pounding. And of course, Russia has not come out unscathed. It's been an extremely expensive, literally and figuratively, for them as well, but they are unquestionably crushing Ukraine, even with this massive amount of resources for NATO. So the Kurds offensive was never going to be meaningful. It was like a one division or something, and you're like literally invading Russia in an area that doesn't even make sense, with the exception of some possible nuclear storage facilities that may or may not have been their goal. I'm not sure. But if it was, I think it was, again, just as a provocation to try and get Russia to do something that would bring NATO in directly. But as Russia, we know NATO wants/needs, or at least thinks they need, Russia to lose this, because just to maintain the global hegemony of the dollar. And even Trump has come out and said that that's what's at stake here. So even when Russia wins, they need Russia to lose. So when Russia even winning is going to take us to the next level, because they can't allow that to happen. They can't allow someone to be kicked out/leave the dollar system and survive. And especially a country like Russia that has a mighty military, that has natural resources, that has, relationships with these other major countries to form the BRICS alliance and all that stuff. So the closer we get to Ukraine being undeniably over in that arena, like the World War III being, that portion of it being over, the more means we're about to head on to the next stage. Which, what is the next stage exactly? Hard to tell. But like all the stuff that Canadian Prep has been pointing out, all signs point to both sides at least preparing for the possibility of there being nuclear escalation, which is not good. And I'll go into the details of that in a second, and what some of the things you can do to prepare. And then we'll also look at the domestic side, but I want to read a few comments here real quick. In your situation, if something big popped off, do you think you'll be all right in Vegas? And you plan to job shop early before more people figure out that the situation is bad? Well, interestingly enough, I don't have a typical job. I sell stuff online on eBay, Amazon. I have the survival fishing kits. I do affiliate marketing, and at this point, I'm like semi-pro poker player. So I don't want to say I can do that anywhere, especially the poker, but I'm not like literally stuck here in Vegas, but I don't have any specific, it would still take a lot for me to move, but it would all depend on the situation. Like something big popped off, it would have to be I use bugging. I've actually was talking to a good friend of mine recently, and I was like, I don't really plan on using the term bugging out anymore because it has too many individual definitions that people think separately. I will use evacuate because that's always what I've meant with bugging out. It's when I can no longer stay here for blank reason, I will evacuate. And for me, that's what bugging out always was. It was never trying to beat out the apocalypse of the shit the fan scenario by figuring out ahead of time. It is getting away from civilization, which that's something you can do, but not if you have a typical job and not if you don't have a specific bug out location either. So for me, I will evacuate only if and when something becomes untenable or I have a huge ironclad reason to believe that everything is going to go completely to shit and I need to find or choose some place where I can like subsistence live or, run back to my family real quick. Does everyone have their 55-gallon drums full of fuel yet? Becoming martial law, monkeypox, and then no gas. 55-gallon drums are tough because you can't move them, can't take them to the gas station to fill them, but I absolutely recommend having fuel. I've talked about the Wavian fuel cans and the Scepter jerry cans. I just actually swapped out one of those. I have a video coming up. I'm going to relate it to fitness because that is one of my prepper fitness standards that I'm going to add to a video. Is it takes a few minutes to pour a gas can into your car or vehicle, especially if you have a smaller funnel or the donkey dick nozzle on the jerry can doesn't fit directly into your gas nozzle thing. And that's true of a lot of modern cars. It's very small, prevent siphoning and things like that. And so you need an actual very narrow funnel to fit in there and then use a jerry can. So you have to hold that 5-gallon full jerry can up for several minutes. And so if you aren't strong enough to do that, it gets a little lighter because the fuel's coming out, but that's something. So I prefer the 5 gallons. They have they even have some that you can get on Amazon that you can roll around and have like pumps on them. That's an option too. 55-gallon drums take a lot of logistical planning. And you have to worry about, it's dangerous. You have to worry about laws, potentially, things like that. Hello again from Algeria. We had presidential elections again today, and I shit you not, a dude won with 94%. Wow. Well, was he really that popular, or do you think there's some shenanigans going on? Typically, that's indicative to me of something weird. When there's no fuel, you ain't going anywhere with 4 wheels. You'll get robbed, killed by people who want your wheels gas. Sort of true, but like I said, you may not have the option. If there's really no fuel, then they're just all going to be on foot. And yeah, they're going to try and stop you and stuff, but there's a lot of situations where fuel will just become extremely expensive, short-term shortages, where there'll be a lot of people still driving around because of what they have in their tanks, so you won't stand out that badly. But if you want to continue or go long distance or just avoid the chaos, you want to have your own fuel. And simply having the cans is another thing that people don't keep in mind. Like if you just get the cans and at least have the empty cans, so when you see this stuff happen, you can run to the gas station and fill them up really quick. Even if you don't have a great place to store it, you at least want to have the cans already. And they are the more expensive part of it. Even now with gas prices, it's more expensive to buy the can than it is to fill it up. So if you have the can, I recommend filling them. But maybe you live in an apartment or something like that, and you don't have any realistic way to fill them or store them safely, at least get the cans. And I will try to remember to put the link to those. Canadian Prepper used to have those. Now you can occasionally find them on eBay, the jerry cans, but the metal waving ones are the best backup, but the jerry cans are the best. I mean, the Scepter plastic ones are the best. And yeah, you can get a transfer pump on eBay to pump between the bigger things, the smaller ones, and everything else. Where are you going with ambushes, spiked hunks of wood, stalled cars everywhere? Again, don't get stuck onto one version of shit hit the fan. That if things are that bad and there's roving bands everywhere, you probably won't be going anywhere. But it's still better to have the option, to have the gas. That's always a mental flaw that happens when people usually they use, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but because you're just thinking ahead of what this might be. But there's this mental kind of thing that people's brains do that when they come up with a what if as an excuse to not have to do the thing, when really it's just a possibility. Like, sure, things could happen, but they use it as, people will just spike the roads anyway, so I don't need to have gas. People are just going to come in and kill you if you have food, so I don't need to store food. And it's just like, whatever, dude. those type of people, I'm like, then don't do anything. Shall we lie down and die, Bob? That's what I say to them. Gas goes bad in 6 months, and that even stable gets iffy in a year. Yeah, I would never make it last for a year. That's why I just talked about swapping it out, because I put the stay bill in it. And especially if you're having it in warmer temperatures or a more humid environment or anything that's not perfect storage, you want to, not have it go more than a year. And I would cycle it through too. Like if I have a 5 gallon or 50 gallons of gas stored and it's at the 6 month part, 8 months, it's time to cycle it out. I wouldn't just fill your entire gas tank with the stored gas. I would put a 5 gallon can in, top it off at the gas station. The next time you need to refill, put another 5 gallons in, but top it off at the gas station. So you're mixing just in case there's anything that's not 100% right with those, you're not really putting that strain on your engine. I use Eagle Type 1 safety gas cans. The safety gas cans I'll have to look at those specifically, but they always have those features that just bother me. Here in the UK, the jerry cans are cheaper to buy than filling them with fuel. Just make sure you're getting good ones, because you can find the cheapo ones here, but they split open, they cross thread, and the seals are bad, and they just nothing works. So I'm talking about for the really good ones. So hopefully, just like in Canada, you guys have some better cans there. I trust your judgment over Canadian prepper. He's too pushy for my liking. Yeah, I think he's just getting a little rattled lately. He really does think stuff's about to go. That's one thing I don't think people get about him is I do think he's authentic. Whether you like him or not, I could care less. But the fact that he sells stuff makes some people think that he's only doing this for the money or the clicks or whatever. And he's obviously in business to make money with his website. But I honestly do think that he thinks everything's about to go to shit at any moment. And so I think that's why he's getting a little frazzled. If you can't sail, you can do so at night. Yeah. So let's move on then. So yeah, Sheepdog Patriot, glad you could catch one live. So I talked about the escalation of World War III. Israel's a part of that too. They've recently seemed to be like actively going into the West Bank and performing operations, and they're kind of along the lines of Ukraine, where they're doing a lot of shit recklessly with probably the hope that it just kicks things off enough that we have to get involved, because in the same way that Ukraine has no chance of beating Russia heads up, Israel has no chance of beating all their potential adversaries at once heads up. Like if it really became a war of the Middle East against Israel, Hezbollah, Iran, the Houthis, Lebanon, Israel does not stand a chance. Like, yeah, they could go out in a blaze of glory and take everyone down with them with nuclear hellfire, but they would not survive. So the Samson option is a last ditch like suicide kind of option of just nuking everyone. But it's a tiny country. They're insanely outnumbered in terms of population. Like people don't even understand Iran just by itself is the size of Alaska and has like 100 million people. And there's no chance Israel could take them out without just blanket nuking them. And if that happens, then who knows what else would go, So they're in a precarious place too, and they've been, in my opinion, really overplaying their hand. I'm not sure exactly what they think is what they even want to happen at this point. I don't even know what a flawless victory would look like to them, But so that's escalating there. And then what we're seeing, which is really going to change things for us, because like I've been saying all along, with the exception of a couple, something like a nuclear EMP, a massive cyber attack, or maybe even a few small tactical nukes, I really think it's unlikely, even in some of the worst case scenarios, not the worst, but in some of the more aggressive scenarios, it's unlikely that the continental United States gets hit with like multiple, strategic nuclear weapons or ballistic missiles or something like that. So, and we're certainly not going to get invaded anytime soon. I've talked about the logistics of why that is just impossible. What we're going to have to deal with is all the descent of, like all these illegal immigrants, these gangs like are popping up in Colorado. It's going to happen in a lot of places, and the domestic financial problems with the dollar. And one of the things that just happened on that front is the yield curve of the 2 and 10-year treasuries reverted. So the yield curve inverts when the 2-year treasury actually pays more than the 10-year treasury. So because of all the shenanigans and weirdness, the government actually pays you more to borrow loan money for 2 years to buy a treasury. The 2-year actually pays more than the 10 years. So you loan the government money for 10 years and you get less money than if you loan it to them for 2 years. So that's a weird inversion. But that in and of itself is not like the worst harbinger. of problems because it can like go back real quick. But if that maintains for a certain amount of time, and then once it finally reverts back to normal, then and that just happened within the past couple of days, I think. And if that stands, if that maintains, then a recession like almost always happens within like 4 to 9 months or something, a significant recession. And we're seeing they're already trying to go back to lowering rates. Some of that's related to the election coming up, but that's another thing. The election's coming up. God knows what dark shenanigans are going to be unleashed in October because of that. Especially if after this debate on the 10th, if Kamala looks as retarded as she normally does, and they're not able to, they might just bail anyway. Who knows? But I expect a lot of shenanigans, and I wouldn't be surprised. It's always tough to bet against stock market price in nominal terms, but I really do think at some point when people panic and really start realizing what's going on, that there is going to be that risk off moment, and the stock market will, in nominal terms, go down, potentially even crash. So, but it's tough. But I still think that like I said, when looking big picture, zooming out and say, what do we just know is going to happen? Betting against the debt is something that cannot possibly go wrong. The only thing that's a question is the time frame. And could you have made more money if you played the game until the very end? Sure. But I've always used this analogy before of a bridge that has been built not to standard, can't take the weight of the cars. And so you use the goat path to conduct your business. Like, yeah, people who continue to use the bridge are going to make more money than you because they can take more of their products across to sell it to the other village. They can do it quicker multiple times a day. But since we don't know, and it's really hard to tell exactly when that bridge is going to crash, then if you're on it when it crashes, you lose everything. Whereas you can just prevent losing everything by betting against the debt now and just giving up some potential profits by trying not to stay on the bridge until it goes. So what does betting against the debt look like? And obviously this is not financial investment advice because I'm a brokey. Why would you listen to me? All I know about some of the oldest elements in the universe, forged in the heart of dying stars, literally. Properties have no equal. And just real stuff. I was watching I think it was a Lead Lag report, or it might have been Liberty and Finance, one of these guys that does interviews. And they're talking about how, these companies like this NVIDIA pay a dividend. I don't even know if they do. And if they do, it's probably like 0.5%. Yeah. 0.039% dividend. Okay, so they technically do, but it's worthless. They're trading at some like 200 times earnings or something absurd, and they don't even pay dividends effectively. And then you can get like some of these oil stocks, like Ecopetrol or whatever. It's like a Colombian oil company, which is probably better because they're not pulling all the stuff from Iran. It trades at like 2 times earnings, or I don't know what their earnings is, but they pay like a 30% dividend. And there's a couple of these other energy or like random pharmaceutical companies that are trading like 2 or 3 times earnings that are like actually creating things. And not that NVIDIA doesn't create things. They're making a real product. It's not like that sandwich shop in New Jersey that had stock worth $100 million or something that was an obvious scam. But the point is that the stock markets are no longer, and haven't been for a while, a price discovery mechanism. It is a casino. And even worse, it's far more rigged than an actual casino. And the scariest part is that even with everything that's going on in the world right now and how we should all know to get out of this stuff, to get into land, to get into precious metals, to get into ammo, to get into food, to get into like real things, even like short-term treasuries that you at least, 30-day treasuries, something that you can't just lose all your money on in a blink of an eye. More of Americans' wealth is invested in the stock market than I think ever before. If not ever, it's like a 30-year high or something crazy, which is terrible because it's like the worst time. It's the most volatile time. And like I said, yeah, we're going to see some big moves up before this all blows. And it may not ever go down in nominal terms because of just the money printing, which we know they're going to go that route. That's my most highest conviction. Second highest conviction behind betting against the debt in general is that they're going to go the melt up route rather than the deflation let it all implode out, let the money disappear, and let the system collapse throughout, because no one has ever done that in the history of humanity, as far as I can tell, in a major economy. But they need, these are the suckers now, the Pelosi's of the world and the Buffetts of the world, who are now hoarding, who sold a lot of his stuff, and Bezos is selling a lot and they're hoarding cash. Who are they selling it to? They're selling it to these poor saps who are making, 50, 100, 150K a year and have all their wealth in the stock market now. They're going to be left holding the bag like a crypto rug pool. So bet against the dead. So pretty. I really think that if you have any money in gold and silver, just find someone who does and just touch it. Something changes in your mind when you touch a real, rare, extremely old, extremely valuable element. I think it does something to your brain. And before that, you think of it as just another ticker on the screen, like GLD or NVIDIA or Amazon. But after you're like, this is real, it exists. There's nothing the government can do that will make this, disappear out of my hand unless they come physically take it. There's things you can do to prevent that as well. So, went over that. Let me go back to the comments real briefly for you guys. Where did I leave off? I see ads for plain filling spouts on YouTube here. Going to get some. Yeah, they have some good, just make sure I have a metal one, a funnel. So the best ones are the ones, of course, that screw onto the can, and you want to have those either way. But you also want to be prepared just in case that does not fit directly into your gas tank. So there's some flexible ones specifically for fuel, because a lot of the oil and other fluid funnels are just not shaped well or long enough or whatever. So there's some fuel specific funnels that you can get, and I'll put another link to those. You want to get the one that screws into the lid itself, and you also want to get the funnel that you can stick into your gas tank, just in case. Did you see the new drone swarms? This shit is Terminator level. Yeah, I hate that stuff. That stuff scares me. It's so difficult to deal with effectively because it's so asymmetrical. Like just a small amount of money and effort invested in that can make something that's incredibly hard to defeat. It's not incredibly powerful, like you can't take out tanks, with a little drone or an entire army, but any individual target, like one tank, if you have a swarm of drones or something like that, or one vehicle, or the fact that these soldiers, we have videos of soldiers being individually targeted by drones, dropping grenades on them. So scary stuff. Power outage. Yes, that is one of the big things. And like I said, I did a video recently, and we're seeing that now. Someone just posted, I posted on Twitter that people are talking about rolling brownouts, like purposefully done power shutoffs in California. We've seen that happen before. It's happened in Texas. As we get into harsh weather in summer or even winter, they have to do this occasionally. As we get more and more people relying on EV, we're going to start seeing things like copper cable thefts, like they're seeing in South Africa, which will disrupt your power in certain situations. You have to be able to provide these things for yourself, whether that's food, protection, medicine, and power. And these power stations now are so ubiquitous and available compared to 10 years ago. The batteries are so much better and everything. I just get something. It doesn't have to be the one that I made the video about, but I was running. I'll try to make a chart because I was comparing it to all the ones. And at least if you get it in this initial period, and check out my last video to get the code for that, where it's like $440, $450, that's extremely hard to beat for those features and those capacity for that price. Once it goes back up to the full price, it's closer, but it's still a great option in terms of specifically because of the wattage that it can draw, including the peak wattage. The hours of the battery, the watt hours of the battery are not particularly impressive. It's just over 1,000 watt hours, which is pretty standard. And the warranty is 3 years. Some of them have 5. So those are the things that are like on the compare, but because the watt hours of the battery is like how much juice is in there. And the flow and the peak is how much you can pour out at once, basically. So those are both really good, which allows you to run bigger things. And the amount of juice in the battery isn't particularly, it's not outside the normal bound. It's very normal, but it's what you need and the ability to charge it so quickly. And I'm referring to the Oupes Mega 1, which is coming out in like 2 days or something. Because you're able to charge it so quickly, even with solar panels, if you have 3 of their panels, I think 600 or 800 watts of solar input, you can charge it in like an hour and a half. With the wall, you can charge it in like an hour. So you can charge it really quickly and then run things like your chest freezer and stuff like that. So, but you don't have to get that one. Look around, check that video AJ did about making your own. And at this point, I think like if you get the Opus one during this initial period sale price, it might not even be more expensive than that one that he was talking about, or it'll be very close and it'll be in a compact, easy to carry package. But just look around, make sure you have some way to have some power. Doesn't even have to be one that big. Just find out. I've just posted on rulethewastelandblog.com a chart or a list of all these random electronic devices, from handheld stuff to all the household appliances, of what the power draw is. And so you can check and see, what am I planning on running and what do I need? What power station or capacity do I need to run that? So Mule 1991, what is that the size of 1 ounce gold? Yeah, this is a 1 ounce bar. So 1 ounce doesn't take much with gold. This is a 1 ounce pirate booty. And this is a 10 ounce bar of silver, long boy. Love it. And this smuggleable size that we joked about before. What about the size? 1 ounce gold coin is about the size of a $50 coin. Yeah, I have it out. I just got it out for the video. Don't wait. But they're not a hell of a lot smaller than a 1 ounce silver coin. I think I have them still here from I showed it off in the last video. So I've got a kookaburra there that I can show you guys too. So this one, gold buffalo. Thought I had one in here. Go with that. So this is a gold Krugerrand. So yeah, about the size of a Kennedy half, a little bigger. About the size of the old dollar coins, whereas a silver round, 1 ounce round. Gotta love the kookaburras. Kookaburra sits in the old country. But yeah, so that's a 1 ounce. And the Krugerrands are a little bigger because they contain an ounce of gold, but they are not 100% 24 karat gold. There's a slight amount of other metals as well. So, oh, there we go. There's a gold buffalo. That's a gold buffalo. It's a gold bar. Silver round. Pretty awesome. Just gotta touch it once and you're hooked. I stick with maple leaves or Krugerrands, and the plastic thing that proves what they are. Yeah, if you're talking about an assay card, shows what it is, that helps. But I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but it certainly can't hurt. I think the sovereign coins of whatever country you're in are probably the best bet. But any of the major, Australia, Canada, England, US, Krugerrands should be fine. And there are, of course, ways to tell if things are real gold or not. It's that way. Just paid $499 for an EcoFlow. Right on, right on. That's not too bad. What are the stats on that one, Joe, in terms of watt hours, how many watts inverter is, and how many peak watts? Because those are the 3 things that you want to look at in terms of what you can run. All the other features are about like how fast the charge is, the warranty, all that stuff's important. But the main like abilities of it are how many watt hour battery, how big is the actual battery, how much juice can you store, how much juice can you run ongoing, and what peak watts can you. And that's where that Opus one compares pretty favorably to other ones of its size and sort of cost. I like the bottom and solar generators, but they're heavy for their size. Yeah, so there's, that's something to look into. For me, the weight of any one that size is not a consideration. It really is mostly relevant to me whether something's 25 or 45 pounds. The other features are more important to me. But the weight's pretty similar across this because it's all wrapped up in the batteries. So it's all going to be based on how many watt hours of battery is. It's going to be the biggest indicator of, or biggest factor in how heavy it is. But I'm making a video coming up on how to protect your power station, whether you get the Oupes Mega 1 or whether you get any of these other ones that the guys are talking about. There's a lot of great ones out there. A simple way to protect your power station and still be able to access it, because we all know about taping it up with aluminum foil. But if it's something you're going to be using and you have to cut into it and redo it, there's better ways. So I'm going to be doing a video on that and talking about us going into nuclear EMP or potentially nuclear war. I have a video on what brokies, some experience in this arena, what poor people can do to prepare for nuclear war. And then I have another video coming up on, what else am I doing? Yeah, I think those are the two that I was mentioning. Glass of whiskey is called a shot because no whiskey by a drink with a bullet. And shit, van bullets will be currency. I don't even know if that's true, but I like it. It would depend on which bullet. Krugerrands are 90% gold because they're 1 point. Right, exactly. They contain an ounce of gold, but their actual composition is not pure gold. So they're slightly lighter. But I like them just because of Lethal Weapon 2. Krugerrands. So I gotta, even from then when I watched that when I was a kid, I was like, I gotta get some fucking Krugerrands. You know what? I did. I don't have a whole trunk full, like in the movie, maybe one day. But those probably weren't real. I doubt they used real Krugerrands. Got the Springbok on there. Got Kruger himself, the eponymous. Is that the Reavers? I don't even know which one is the Obverse and the Reavers. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. I've been prepping before you were born, probably before your daddy was born. Maybe. Weird flex, but all right. Time to get your colonoscopy then, I guess. I wrapped my Bluity and RF wrap and tape sealed completely. Yeah, that'll work. But because it's taped up, it's a little tougher to get at. Or you just waste tape getting in and out. So if you're not going to use it more than like once every 2 or 3 months just to charge it up, that's fine. But I'm surprised you don't own an MP5, even a PT. Hey, dude, why don't you fucking rub it in? I just told you I'm a poor. Come out here with the HKs and shit. Just to fucking embarrass me. I'm a Palmetto Armory kind of guy over here. What do you think this is? I just told you in the beginning, this channel makes like $75 a month if I'm lucky. I'm going to get a fucking MP5. Do you prefer greyman attitude or being alpha with an SHC? Oh, that's funny you should mention that, Ahmed, because I literally wrote down, that's one of my upcoming videos, is that I think that whole concept of greyman is being misunderstood. And it only applies to like hiding resources, not hiding your capabilities. Because if you look at like, if you talk to people about any sort of situation in real regular world, not SHTF, but like just walking through a bad neighborhood, everyone is always like hard target. You know what I mean? And then when it comes to shit to fan, the purpose is like, great man, you want to look like a fat, useless slut. And I know that's not exactly what people are saying. You just want to look normal. But my distinction on gray man is you want to not necessarily you want to hide your wealth, but display your capabilities. That's how so hide the resources. You don't want to show that you have resources, but you want to display your resilience, strength, capability. So like weapons, things like that. I don't have a problem with showing them off in a shit command scenario because you want to be a hard target. And the idea that you'll just be able to pass them by and like, yeah, maybe they want to attack me if I look super weak. That's not the way the world works. People are more likely to attack you if you think you look weak. And the people are going to say, well, if they see you have a good gun, they might try to take it. But if this is that situation, there's bandits, no one's getting by without being attacked, unless you look like you're a tough enough customer and have your shit together enough that they're going to, people don't want a fight, they want the loot drop. So you have to let them know that they're going to get the fight. And that's what, to me, the conversation about being gray man is about, is let people know that they're in for a fight, but don't let them know what you have in terms of resources. So show off your weapons, show off your hardening. Don't show off, so if you have like a big truck and stuff, you can make it look like you're able to ram them and that will help you. What you don't want to do is have like 50 fuel cans on there or other resources. So you can make the truck look old and shitty, but you want to make it look like a beastly powerhouse. Same with your physical characteristics. You don't want to look like you're starving and everything else. Like you don't want to look like you have resources, but you want to look like you're alert. You want to look like you're healthy enough to fight them off. You want to look like you're willing and able to fight them off and alert, and you have weapons, you have multiple people, that sort of thing. Somebody says, I mean, the plastic strip with the mortises for coins, slots for thickness and a bounce. Oh, yeah, yeah. So that there are, what you're referring to, I believe, is they have these plastic, it's just like a tool that you can use specifically for sovereign coins, like because these are of a known mass to size ratio and weight and everything, that if it can discover whether a particular, like a Canadian maple or a gold buffalo. So it'll be designed specifically for those and maybe be able to do multiples, but it'll be like if it is more than this and tips over on it, and then it's a tool that you can use to determine whether it's real or not. But that only works for the coins that it's made for. You can't just put any gold 1 ounce round in there because they're, like I said, with the Krugerrands or the Canadian, like different dimensions, different thicknesses, different stuff like that. But those are relatively cheap. It's just a little piece of plastic, not a bad idea to hold around, to carry around. If I can remember that, I'll put a link to the description, in the description, to those as well after I'm done. When traveling, if you have a driver, I'm 100% being in the gunner. Yeah, exactly. Backseat with a 40-round mags. Travel via vehicle weeks after it's going to be extremely dangerous. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons. And we were just talking about this. Like the entire idea of bugging out and not just evacuating for some particular reason, but just bugging out is 100% dependent on you being able to recognize not only accurately but early when there's about to be a shit advanced scenario, but not so early that you have to like quit your job or whatever. So it depends on your life situation too. But let's assume you have a normal job, 40-hour week job, where you really can't take more than a week off at any given point without your job being at risk or at least not getting paid. And you have you in a normal area, you're reasonably prepped, but your main bug out location is some distance away, like an hour away. If you just have your normal job and let's say a nuke goes off, or like we happened with in the UK, let's say, do you just run to your bug out location then and say, I'm done working? It could be 6 months before that escalates enough to where like we're getting nuked. Maybe it'll happen the next day, or something like with COVID. When would you have left for COVID, and how long would you have stayed? And that turned out to be a big fat nothing burger for the most part. And would you have lost your job if you just went out to your cabin in the woods and stayed there for 2 years or 1 year, 6 months? Can you even do that? So the whole, like, this is the most important element of bugging out when used in that, with that definition, that I don't see a lot of people address. And if you're a minute late, then that plan doesn't work. If you leave for your bug out location a minute after the nuke's dropped, then it doesn't work. You're stuck anyway. It says you got to go out there. It says you can have it. I'm digging a tunnel out at the lake and staying in it for a year. Well, make sure you don't dig one that's going to fill up with water. Got to get me too close to a lake. It's a balance. Lean and mean is a good descriptor. Show off as little value. Right. So you want to seem like you don't want to necessarily seem like you're fat and happy. You want to be seeming desperate but dangerous is probably the best definition of gray man. You want to seem strong and dangerous, but not wealthy and not have a lot of resources. You want to hide the resources, but display your capabilities. That's the most pithy, succinct way I can say in a gray man. Like how you're dressed to me, like that sort of gray man thing, is the one that I don't agree with. Like someone saying, "Oh, if I wore all tactical," yeah, you don't want to look like a tactical cool dork. But if someone like fucking I don't know, it's the Green Beret guy from the UFC, who's like jacked and obviously Green Beret. If he dressed up in like full battle rattle and stuff, and you're like, that's not gray man. Obviously, you can take one look at those fucking guys and be like, and so that's going to be helpful. Now, if he's just standing around a big supply, flagrantly showing off that he has stockpiles of ammo and stuff, that's not going to be helpful. But don't think that you have to dress like the average schlub. That might bring more adversity your way than looking like a hard target. I wrote a book about how to make a silencer for 22. Interesting. 500,000 copies. Like, nice work. I don't kid yourself that lots of people aren't figuring out how you can. Yeah, it could be helpful, but they are significantly less powerful, but being that quiet is super useful. Sorry that I'm late. Don't be sorry, be better. But I absolved. Tim Kennedy, thank you. I don't know why his name just totally slipped my mind. He's retired from fighting, but he works for like Sheepdog Response, much of these other companies. Total badass, obviously. Kill you with any weapon or without a weapon. And like I said, and he's jacked. And like I said, if I look like that, like just having a full battle rattle on is certainly not going to make you more likely to be attacked. It'll make you a hell of a lot less likely to be attacked. And I think that people are mistaken how often bandits who are not professionals necessarily, but just have, because of a shit the fan scenario, feel like they need to prey on people. And even professional like gangster types, like inner city gangs, are not going to be this like, ooh, loot drop, like when they see somebody like that, you look at all these jewelry store smash and grabs. You could have an old man with a 6-shooter starts popping rounds back at them, and they all have shotgun. 6 guys with AR-15s and shotguns and stuff start running. So they're not looking for a fight; they're looking for stuff. So don't show them the stuff; show them the fight. That's my gray man principle. A subsonic 22 long rifle good science was, yeah, exactly. I had one that especially you don't even need a silencer. If they're like the truly subsonic 22s, you barely even need a silencer. And you just hear the clack of the bolt. It's crazy. The round itself is like barely making any noise. But they are fairly weak, so you need to know exactly what their capabilities are. Because I had one of those subsonic 22 long rifle rounds bounce off of the bottom of a glass like Mexican Coke. It didn't even break the glass. But yeah, definitely a good capability. Always good to have options. And for those of you who were not here for the beginning, I'll reiterate that I'm going to be doing more on Patreon just because to give some stuff away and because the YouTube algorithm doesn't like me. So it took me 6 years to get the last 10,000 subscribers, and they don't show my videos. But at the end of the month of September, anyone who is a patron will get entries into a drawing, and it's depending on what tier you're in, is how many entries you get. It's Fox Edge, brand new. The box I just opened under this video. This is called the Fox Edge. What's the model? FE 520. Pretty cool blade shape. Here's glass breaker slash convincer attitude adjuster on the pommel. Pretty good ergonomics, if I do say so myself, and very smooth not assisted, sorry, but just flipper opening. Not good at that. I've been using so many of the automatic knives lately, which are just so awesome. Like I said, the automatic knives awaken ancient blood memories in me. But that Fox Edge will be given away at the end of September. And every month from now on, at least once a month, potentially more, we're giving free stuff away on Patreon. And I will put the link in the chat right now, but it'll also be in the description if you're watching this video later. So it's been 50 minutes. I want to see if the Lions are crushing the Rams because I have $25 on this game like a degenerate. So I will give you guys 10 more minutes for questions. What topics do you want to cover? Let's hear it, or I'm out. You'll know because everyone will be going to. You'll have to walk the night, walk someplace else. Yeah, it just depends. Like I said, I don't plan for a scenario. I plan for not knowing what's going to happen. Those are possible scenarios, but if you just plan for, like, if you get locked into what you think things are going to be like in some disaster scenario, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. The enemy in this case is the SHTF scenario. So they're never going to be exactly like me. So like flexibility and resilience are the best bets, but you're not necessarily wrong. Maybe you can't figure out where to dig, but I can. Well, good luck then. Dig away. Go hide in the hole. It's not my plan, unless absolutely necessary. I'll get monkey butt, sandy ass. What is your favorite wing flavor? I'm not big into spicy stuff, but I'm not like I can't handle spicy. My girlfriend makes fun of me. Like medium wings. I like medium wings. That's a good level of spice. But I also don't mind the uh non-spicy, like garlic parmesan type flavors, stuff like that. I appreciate it. That's Wheatley for the #1 fan super chat. But I just like a lot of times, especially if I make them at home, we just do like a baked. I don't need them to be flavored at all. I eat a lot of chicken, and most of the time it's just grilled, or if the wings are just baked, not breaded. I prefer that. Just avoid the heat and stuff that's unnecessary, and the seed oils, whatever else I'm using on it. Is there a scenario where one nuke gets launched and it doesn't result in all nukes being launched? Yeah, I think that, in fact, I think that's going to happen. I absolutely, at this point, I've mentioned in my videos, I do think there will be a nuclear detonation within the next, sometime in the next 5 to 10 years. Whether the, and it, most likely we'll see it, certainly a test, but I think even beyond a test, I think someone's going to pop one off. Too many people have them now who are just in a death struggle. And even if it might even be some weird false flag, where Israel or somebody, Ukraine gets their hands on one or something like that, and they're trying to get everything. But I think that's the Cold War version of the two superpowers just launching every ICBM at each other is not super likely, luckily, because nobody gains from it. I think that a especially tactical battlefield nukes, like when it comes down to it, the threshold, once that threshold is breached, there's a lot of the lower end nuclear weapons that are really not like what we think of. We think of the Sarmat, Satan, raining hell on 50 megatons of nuclear hellfire. But some of these lower yield tactical nukes are only a couple times bigger than the largest conventional weapons that we already use, like the Moab. And there's even some that they can really dial back on and have almost no nuclear radiation fallout, especially if they're an airburst. So it's mostly just that no one wants to cross that line. But once it's crossed, we could see all kinds of nukes go off and just it's used kind of more like the Moab than used like you would traditionally think, giant ICBMs shooting at each other. So I think it's very likely that we'll see one go off somewhere, fired in anger, not just a test, and sometime in the next 5 to 10 years. When you add in the cake, like I said, all these like little, not Castle Bravo, that was a big one. But whatever that the little one is. I forget what they call the smaller tactical nukes. That are just like a couple kilotons or something. So yeah, I definitely think we'll see some of that, unfortunately. That's why I think we have to all have preparations for that. Garlic Parmesan. Can't you read? I said 60 gram of Gila subsonics have the same power as normal 22s. That's why they weigh 60 grams. All right, good for you. I agree. The old MAD doesn't work anymore with all the small tactical nukes in the game. Well, it's not even that it doesn't work. It still works as a deterrent. Like if since we know Russia has the ability to do that, it still prevents us from trying a lot of different things. But what's new now is that we have options to, nuclear options that don't just include, let's turn the entire other country into a, irradiated hellscape. What do you think about the volcano in Italy? I don't know much about it. Interesting always, but I'm a geologist, don't know what to think about it. I'm planning for blackouts, blizzards. Yeah, I mean, at some point, we're all probably going to lose power again, whether that's from hurricanes or just inept, incompetent government and everything else. SBQR, appreciate it, sir. It says prep tip. Lighter flints oxidize and fail after a few years of storage. It doesn't fail plus fire steel is half oxidized. Matches and magnifying glasses. Good point. Yes. But don't throw that lighter away just because the flint is oxidized. If you have anything else, even another lighter that's empty, but the flint still works, you can use the spark and the gas will come out and light then. Or you can use a ferro rod or anything else that creates a spark and then light the gas that's still in that lighter, even if your flint has failed. So I wouldn't necessarily throw away a lighter that has obvious fluid in it, even if never had a failure of matches, magnifying glass, get a Fresnel lens. Yeah, the Fresnel lens you actually have to be careful with, especially if you get the big ones. People have videos of the ones that are foot by a foot, maybe like melting nickels and stuff. Like, and out here, especially with the way the sun is, you better be damn sure that it's in some kind of opaque case, because if you just leave it lying around, even indoors, and the sun hits it, it will just. But that makes them fantastic for fire starting. You have to actually have special glasses, like welding goggles, almost, if you want to look at them. You have to be very careful. Keep the gas. Yeah, exactly. Fair, fair. It's not all or nothing anymore. Right. That's the idea. It's not all or nothing anymore. There's a lot of potential nuclear scenarios that could happen before that. And just a little one, like what if Russia decided to nuke Ukraine, but on its own territory? Like this Kurds offensive had really got legs, and they're just like, you know what, fuck you, we're dropping a nuke on its own territory. That wouldn't have just instantly had everybody launching nukes, but it would have, everyone would have, like, oh, and everyone would have, had a bunch of rhetoric and said how this is the most evil thing that's ever been done in the history of things that have been done. And it would have been the only country who's used nukes in war would be saying that. But it wouldn't have everyone, we wouldn't just be like, all right, Russia, we're nuking you to hell if they set off a nuke on their own territory or something like that. So it's all these weird options like that. And certainly Israel is, if they feel like they're existentially threatened, they might do it. We always have the kooks in North Korea. So there's all sorts of stuff that can go on. I think if at this point, if Russia, China, or North Korea or Iran wanted to take us out, like they really want to just fuck it, we're going to do the nuclear option, it would be the EMP option, because that would actually be more disastrous with less, long term, I think. Not necessarily more disastrous, but it would be just as disastrous, and it wouldn't get an instant retaliatory strike. We might not even be able to retaliate. We'd have to know who did it, first of all, and the EMP would have had to leave enough working for us to actually go after them. A bit of something with fluff and some gasoline and the no fuel. Yeah, you really need to fire if you know anything. I've eaten many a can of cold baked beans. Well, yeah, you don't need much. I don't need to wipe my ass after I go shit, technically, but I'm not just trying to survive, like to literally just survive. If it comes down to it, then sure, you can eat beans and stuff without warming it up or whatever. But you don't have to, you don't get extra credit for doing things the hard way. Let's put it that way. Or they said in the army, you don't have to train to be miserable. You don't need fire if it's winter. Yeah, exactly. There's some situations where you do need heat. It doesn't necessarily have to be fire. CIA has been able to read license plate from space for 40 years. Yeah, right. They have all sorts of, and not just our government. That's the thing to keep in mind. But I appreciate it, guys. I'm going to call this one. It's right about 7 o'clock. Check the links in the description. They'll be there within a few minutes. And as always, remember that if you buy the Rule the Wasteland Survival Fishing Kit, that you get a SHTF survival guarantee. And if you die during an apocalypse, after you bought this, I'll refund you. Full refund, not partial. Full refund if you die during the apocalypse. Check it out on Amazon. Something to think about. Thank you for watching, guys. We'll be posting more videos soon.